All right, so today we're going to tackle a huge dilemma that pretty much every developer faces these days, having to choose between the power and familiarity of SQL and the raw speed you need for modern data. We're going to look at TimescaleDB, a database that basically says, hey, why not have both? Okay, so let's just set the stage here. We are drowning in time-stamped data. I mean, think about it. Every single sensor reading, every click on a website, every financial transaction, every system log, it is all coming at us as this relentless, nonstop, time-ordered stream. And that, right there, creates a massive headache for developers. And this really gets to the heart of the problem. For years, the choice felt kind of impossible, right? Do you stick with the classic, powerful SQL that you know, that you love, that your whole team knows? Or do you jump ship to one of these new specialized databases that's built for crazy speed and scale? It always felt like you were giving something up. And you can see that trade-off laid out perfectly here. On one side, you've got your traditional SQL databases. We all know them. They're super flexible, but honestly, they just start to choke when you throw massive time series workloads at them. Then, on the other side, you have these specialized time series databases. They are incredibly fast, no doubt, but they force you and your team to learn completely new query languages and abandon this huge mature ecosystem that SQL has. But what if you didn't have to choose? What if you could get the best of both? Well, this is exactly where TimescaleDB steps into the conversation, promising to be the solution that bridges this gap. So what is TimescaleDB exactly? Well, and this is the most important part, it's not a brand new database built from the ground up. It's actually a super powerful extension that just plugs right into Postgres. What that means is you get the massive scale you need for time series data without giving up the SQL you already know and rely on every day. I just love this phrase because it captures the whole idea so perfectly. TimescaleDB isn't trying to reinvent the wheel. No, it's leveraging decades of stability, reliability, and just a mountain of features from one of the most advanced open source databases on the planet. You get all the power of Postgres, just supercharged for time series. So you might be wondering, okay, how does it actually do that? So a hypertable is the main thing you'll ever interact with. But what's cool is that it's just a clever abstraction. It's like a virtual front for a ton of complexity that's being handled for you, automatically, in the background. To you, it looks and feels just like a single, normal database table. And this shows you how it works. It's brilliant, really. As millions of events are pouring in, the hypertable is behind the scenes, automatically slicing up that data into smaller, much more manageable chunks, usually based on a time interval. But, and this is key, for you, the developer, absolutely nothing changes. You just run your normal SQL queries against that one virtual table, and TimescaleDB smartly figures out exactly which of those little chunks it needs to read. All that complexity is managed for you. Now, this whole architecture unlocks some absolutely incredible features. Of course, you get those massive ingest rates while keeping full SQL support, but it also automates all the tedious stuff. Like automatically getting rid of old data you don't need anymore, or compressing older data to save a ton on storage costs. And my favorite, continuous aggregates. These are like pre-calculated summaries that make your dashboards and reports load almost instantly, even if you're querying terabytes of data. Okay, this all sounds great in theory, but where is it actually being used? Well, the adoption of TimescaleDB out in the real world in some really critical industries is honestly pretty impressive. We're not talking about small projects here. We're talking about sectors where data accuracy and uptime are totally non-negotiable. You see it in financial firms that are tracking every single market tick, in huge IoT platforms that manage millions of devices, and even in the energy grids that, power our cities. TimescaleDB is out there handling that massive load. And it's not just for startups either. Some of the biggest industry leaders on the planet rely on this technology for their most demanding workloads. I mean, when organizations like Bosch, Schneider Electric, and even NASA are trusting it with their mission-critical time series data, you know it's been seriously battle-tested. So let's kind of bring this all home. In a world full of databases, what is it that makes TimescaleDB truly stand out from the crowd? It really all comes back to this core idea of bridging two separate worlds. It beautifully pairs the rigor and the flexibility of a relational database. We're talking full SQL, the ability to join your time series data with other business data with the raw performance you'd expect from a specialized engine, giving you those crazy high ingest rates and super efficient storage. And that's the bottom line. TimescaleDB just hits that perfect sweet spot. It's built for those development teams who need to handle these massive, relentless streams of data, but they just don't want to throw away all the powerful tools, the knowledge, and the ecosystem they've spent years building around SQL. And that kind of leaves us with one last really interesting thought. TimescaleDB proves that you can build time-native features right into a classic relational core. So as more and more and more of the data we generate is timestamped by default, maybe the real question isn't whether to use a time series database. Maybe you have to start wondering, is a day coming when every database will need to be a time series database?